Good evening, everyone. Here we are in the Zen garden of Mr. Peter and Miss Martha, and the frogs are croaking in the ponds in the property next door. It just goes to show you how much life a pond can support. That's something you guys probably don't get to hear because you usually leave before this happens, but it's an amazing part of the summertime. Probably billions of frogs living there. So this garden's theme is that it's a Xeric garden. So that's spelled Xeric, I believe. And that just is a fancy word for dry. So Xeric means dry, or you could call it, a desert garden, but really it's any plant that doesn't need a lot of water, and people are trying to promote having these types of gardens because in a lot of places we're lucky that we do get rain. In a lot of places like California, Arizona, they're not allowed to water their gardens constantly or keep lawns. They just don't have enough water, so they have to find plants that they can grow without water. And so that's what we're doing here in this garden. And one of my goals is just to show how easy that can be. There's a marigold in bloom. So we've mixed in some wildflowers that also do not need a lot of water. This is a century plant, which is in the agave family. And these are not native, but they're related to a native plant. We have the yucca, and they're called a century plant because they say they only bloom once every 100 years. Now, I don't know if that's true, but it is very rare when they bloom, and a lot of times after they bloom, then they die. So they'll send up this gargantuan shoot. I mean, by the time they do this, they're going to be 50 times the size of this plant. These are just babies. They're going to be like as big as 15 people. And then they send up a shoot that's as big as a tree, and it blooms up at the top. It looks a lot like an agave bloom. And it, that's it. Then it's done with its life cycle. It makes seeds, and then the seeds start all over again. Now, this plant is native. This is called a prickly pear, and it is edible. It has these purple pears that are supposed to have some of the best nutrition available on earth. And you can also eat the pods. So like if you go to a Mexican restaurant, you can often order where they shave off the skin and they grill the inside. This is called the pad, and put it in a burrito, and it's really delicious. Now, I haven't done it just because I'm a little bit nervous. I don't know how exactly they prepare it. So the thing about the prickly pear is that you look at it and you think, oh, I got this covered. I'm just not going to touch the needles. Well, there's more than just those big needles that you see. There's teeny tiny needles. So they're just microscopic, and they're so small you can't get them out. So don't touch it. So it would be something you would do with gloves, and then we'd have to ask somebody who knows what they're doing to tell us how to prepare it. And over here we have a fig tree. So I have planted a lot of plants in this garden that you might find in the Mediterranean, because the Mediterranean is very hot and dry. It has similar climate to like California. But this plant was planted before I got here. It's at least 4 years old, and it's really maturing well. It has lots of baby figs on it. They're getting ready for summer. And figs grow really well in desert climates, and they produce a lot of food. So a good thing to have on hand to be self-sufficient. Here we have a red cedar. Red cedar is native and also very hardy, can handle drought conditions. It is a conifer, which is one of the ancient plants. So conifer is the opposite of like a broadleaf. Instead of having broadleaves, it has usually needles, but the conifer doesn't have needles, it has scales, what we call like scale-like leaves. So they have like a bunch of teeny tiny scales, same like bald cypress. And it's evergreen like most conifers, which is awesome. It stays green all year long. And this is something you could find growing in some really dry climates, and it makes a nice hedge. It's getting bigger. The great thing about the red cedar is that when it's young, it's really pokey and it hurts when you touch it, and that helps protect it when it's young. It keeps the kids from trampling it and killing it. And then when it gets about this size, now that it's mature, it's soft, like it doesn't hurt to touch it anymore. And that's because it's not worried anymore. It's like big and it can take care of itself. Over here we have another Mediterranean species. This is an olive tree. Now, if you look on the internet, it says that olive trees don't really grow here in South Carolina, but we had them, and they were too big for the pot, so we put them in the ground. I mean, you can only keep plants in a pot for so long. It's not ideal. A hard freeze might be hard on this plant, but the dryness is not. It loves the hot heat of our summers. Now, what do we have here? We have a sunflower. So this sunflower was a volunteer. It just grew up in this soft soil at the bottom of the olive tree, and that's common. So, you know, if you're trying to get rid of the weeds and you pull up all the plants and you leave up a bunch of soil, turned over soil with no plants in it, that's just the perfect place for a seed to land and grow. So pretty soon you're going to have a bunch more weeds unless you decide what to plant there. And that's why we get these sunflowers popping up right next to our trees, because we dug up the soil to plant the tree, we made it all nice and weed free, and then the sunflower moved in. Maybe a bird dropped it, you know, maybe a bird sat right here on this little cage and excreted its waste for the day, which included a sunflower seed. That's part of the plan. This is an African iris, and it looks like it is making some little pods here. It's already bloomed, and irises have bulbs, but sometimes the plants will like make bulbs on stems and drop them and reproduce underground, or sometimes they'll make seeds above ground and bulbs underground. So Africa also has some very dry climates in that continent, and this plant you'll see in a lot of landscapes. Like you might see it planted at the grocery store, you know, places where they're not going to be taken care of and getting a lot of water. And they bloom a lot and they like a lot of sun. So we're happy to have the African iris here in our Xeric garden. Lantana. This is a native plant, but also very drought tolerant. And here we have Mexican sage. This plant gets huge and very showy purple blooms, but like we said, everything starts out as a baby. It's going to die back every winter down to the ground. The landscape crew cut it all the way down. They didn't realize it was a plant. That's why we put the little fences on there. But it will be big by the time you get back. So we're trying to plant some cactuses and things like that. This is called pencil plant. We saw one in the sensory garden, but this one is huge and doing really happy here. We have native aloe down here. And then over here we have planted some native love grass that Miss Martha and Miss Amy Horn got in their Master Naturalist class. It has like pinky purple blooms. They're so small, they don't really look like blooms. They look more just like seeds, but the light shines through them in the fall, like, and they're kind of purpley. This is a baby milkweed that planted itself, but we're going to let it grow there. This is called Dusty Miller, and it's unusual because it's white. This is sold in the nurseries, and then it seems to live fine here. Like, so people buy it as an annual, plant it, then rip it out, and then keep changing every season. But ours just keep living for years and years. And they seem to be healthy. Like, now that's odd for a white plant to be healthy. Typically, you know, humans, we try to breed unusual plants, but they're not necessarily healthy. You know, that means it either doesn't have a lot of chlorophyll, or it has some other type of pigment that covers up the green. So that's very odd. But it seems to be able to produce food and have photosynthesis nevertheless. And I don't know where that plant is native to. More love grass. No, these are tiny, like, little spriglets that we got. So it's going to be like 3 years, 3-4 years, these are going to be huge tufts. And then they're going to be unstoppable. More native aloe. So this one will die back in the winter, but it still comes back every spring. And another century plant. And more native love grass. Now let's come over here. And the passion flower that we looked at earlier, just, you know, a month and a half ago, wasn't blooming at all. Now it's blooming. This is the native passion flower. It has kind of a white bloom and these purple spikes. Just beautiful. And then here you can see there's buds, and it's also starting to make fruit. So we'll keep our eyes out as we go along the fence line for some fruit. We have another olive tree. It has a waxy leaf, which means to me that it could survive well by salt water, which makes sense. Like in Greece, you have olives everywhere, and it's all islands everywhere surrounded by the Mediterranean. Do you guys recognize these? These have been in other videos. So we have crossvine, thicker and healthier now, but there's the cross of the crossvine. Do you remember this one? This is pokeweed, and it has that magenta stem that's just beautiful, makes it very easy to recognize. And I saw a fruit, here it is. There we go, there's the passion fruit. It's not ready, it's got to be all yellow to be ready, but it's very edible. It's a native edible fruit, and you can put them in a blender and make a smoothie. They have seeds, but the seeds are edible. They're easier to eat when they are blended. This is hummingbird vine, and then we have blackberry. This is native weed. It really will get you. It has, I don't know if you can see that it is just covered with spikes, little teeny tiny spikes that are going to get you. So we'll weed it from here. We'll let it grow in the woods right next door, and then we'll pick the blackberries when you come back in the fall. It will really be the end of summer, and we'll pick those. Now, this is an important plant to know. I'm not going to touch it, but I want you to look closely. Do you know what it is? It has 3 leaves, and it's red, pinky on the inside. This is poison ivy. So leaves of 3, leave it be. It has like a toothed edge. It's not really a lobe. It's not really a serration. It's like a You know, I can't remember the official term for that, but you know, it's not a smooth edge. It's not like a typical smooth edge. So that's another clue. These are things you want to remember. Now, poison ivy grows different here in the south than it does up north. Up north, this is as big as it gets. It just grows out of the ground. Here, it'll turn into a vine and grow all the way up a tree and actually get like a very hairy, thick, woody vine. So that hairy vine that you see in the woods sometimes is poison ivy. So we don't like poison ivy, but it actually has a very nutritious berry, and birds actually depend on it and eat it. So over there we have Mimosa Tree. There's the playground. This Mimosa Tree is not native. It's actually invasive, but I just can't bring myself to kill it. It makes a wonderful shade and it grows fast. So we're hoping this tree someday it's going to shade the playground and it's going to shade your picnic table. And I want you to say, thanks, Miss Samantha, for planting that 10 years ago. It's going to be so much shadier. Do you guys remember what these are? Now, 3 lobes, but not 3 leaves. So that's the passion vine that we're growing. And it is growing native and wild to the point where we're even weeding it in some places. We have stokesia, younger stokesia, more Dusty Miller. This is Coreopsis. It's a native wildflower that can handle drought conditions. It has all those tiny little yellow flowers that we see a lot of. This is called sea oxeye daisy. If you go to the beach or sometimes near the marsh, like even downtown by the marina, it's blooming on the edges of the beach and the marsh right now. It's a daisy and it's yellow and it's native. This one's young. We got it from DNR, gave this to us as a thank you gift to the sea turtle volunteers. So we're gonna have those. They're very hardy, you know, if they can grow on the edge of the marsh, but they're small, so we have to take care of them now. Oh look, there's a toad. Oh. He's almost impossible to see, but he's in the picture. He's so camouflaged. He has almost a leopard print. He's very beautiful. He's trusting his camouflage. He's hoping I can't see him. Alright, he went right out the bunny hole. So there's the little tunnel where the bunny comes and goes. I mean, she can come and go. It's kind of hard to see on the camera, but it's an obvious little bunny tunnel. She's smaller than she looks. She's fluffy, but I saw her once crawl through like one of those squares on the fence, and that's not very big, so she was all fluff. More goldenrod, also very drought tolerant. Now this one is another Mediterranean plant. This is lavender, so perfect for the Xeric Zen Desert Garden. And we have more goldenrod, some mums, and this is native sunflower. Some people call it swamp sunflower. It's odd because it will grow like in the desert, but it will also grow in the swamp. It doesn't care. These are those yellow flowers that look like black-eyed Susans, and they get like 15 feet tall. Like by the time you get back, they'll be huge. And then I have a couple more things to show you just for learning purposes. This is Chinese tallow. This is not native. It's very invasive. It's growing out through the fence from the woods, and some people call it popcorn tree because the flowers look like popcorn. It's bad. Like, they're trying to control it, but I don't know if that's possible anymore. It was brought here just as an ornamental, just because it was beautiful, and it does feed the bees. So, you know, it's not totally bad. We might have to learn to live with it. Okay, and last but not least, we're gonna talk about, this is one of everybody's least favorite plants. I call it Belko Plant because if you, it's very rough and you just stick it and it just sticks. But it's also called beggar's lice because this is the one that puts like 10,000 burrs all over you and will even stay in the washing machine even though you wash it. So I really try to control it. You can see I laid cardboard down and tried to smother it, but it's almost impossible. So I pull it, but if I can't pull it, I at least, if it's too strong, I at least break the top off and try to prevent it from making seeds. So there's always lots of work to be done to maintain the garden. And we've got one last little tree that I planted for you guys. This is a baby red cedar. This one's prickly because it's young, and these will just seed themselves and kind of grow in your garden. So I've been growing them like bonsai trees, and decided this one was ready to become its own tree. So we sure do miss you here at Lowcountry Montessori. It's just not the same without all of your beautiful faces. And I will keep thinking about you all, and I will just be waiting for fall when we can come back, and then everything's going to look different. So remember, you know what it looks like now, so you can appreciate it when it gets really big.